changes in terms of the preference we make. In terms of changes required, I think we have to have infrastructure development to, if we want to really do away with, you have cars ranging from 2 lakhs to maybe 80 lakhs or whatever, or maybe of course much more. So the idea is that, are you really creating an alternative? The question is, we're talking about clean energy, okay, we're talking about, electric vehicles. We were just having this conversation some time back that, of course, I would not want to say that, it's per se, it's kind of bad, but have we really kind of researched and kind of seen the implications? Do we really know what are we going to do after this 8-year warranty of the so-called batteries, which I think most of the car companies and whatever they give an 8-year warranty, how are we going to kind of, recycle, reuse? And if we don't have a mechanism, why are we kind of, harping on it again and again? If you're talking about, say, for example, someone long back, I was doing this matter before the Supreme Court, and someone said that, we have been so fond of CNG and stuff like that. But there is also an argument which basically said that, this was a gas, or this was a fuel, which actually had a lot of, colorless and odorless gases, which are not really good for you. But we saw it as an alternative, we jumped onto it. So, for example, we saw EVs and we have actually developed. So, I don't say it's per se bad, but I think there's a lot of research, there's a lot of investment that needs to go in terms of cycling. We're talking about a lot of vehicles, we're talking about vehicle recycling. I think we should be more concerned about your battery recycling. We're talking about hydrogen, we're talking about a whole lot of other things. Do we really know how we're going to kind of, achieve these targets? So, that's one part of it. Waste management, of course, I talk about. The one thing which I always feel, and because renewable energy, we're talking about, of course, a whole lot of things when it comes to climate change, emissions, and all of that. That's there. But I think a lot of these conversations also need to be taken to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. I also feel that so we keep talking about these coastal communities being impacted by the climate change and stuff. I come from the UP Bihar region and stuff like that, and I know as a matter of fact there's this river called Kosi which flows in Bihar. I don't know if you are actually aware. And for whatever reasons, I mean, of course, because of its natural cause, of climatic reasons, annual flooding, there is a whole lot of agricultural land. We're talking about, because one of the things we often talk about is you have to make your agricultural practices climate resilient. So how are you going to make your agricultural practices climate resilient if you're not addressing these challenges? You have a river which flows through whatever, your very, very fertile agricultural lands and leaving it actually good for nothing. So I mean, these are issues, and I think see a lot of these conversations that we have, over fine wine and cheese and stuff like that. I think that's my personal view, of course. On a lot of occasions, these really don't achieve the purpose that it ideally should, because I think there is a lot of work which is required to be done at the grassroots level, where you actually need to go and tell people this is what you should ideally be doing. And also, because if you talk about climate justice and if you talk about, that debate between developing nations or the privileged and not so privileged, I think it also applies at all levels. So the idea simply, the way I see it is, I think there is a lot of education, there is a lot of capacity building, there is a lot of, I think, and see, we can always kind of talk about it, but are we also, everyone sitting here, are we actually doing what we should be doing as citizens, or people who are aware of what the problems are and what really the solution is? So it's not as simple a solution as it, we may talk about it, but I think the governments, the private sector, they can all do whatever we want them to do. But I think as citizens, there's a lot that we should also be doing instead of just talking about it. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad that we are coming back to what we need to do rather than just saying all hunky-dory. So Sudhir, given that you have been participating in various community-based initiatives and you have come from the dispute side of things, tell me, where are you seeing the actual driver for collaboration? I completely agree with Amit and Purushat that you need to pick up the grassroots implementation. The awareness, actual climate consciousness is missing. Whether we like it or not, and you go back to our traditional thought in India, and I'm not talking of now this century, I'm talking of a few million, 1,000 years ago, how we ate, how our cropping patterns were, how we moved around, how we lived, was far more sustainable than what we have made our lives today. There are challenges in terms of the fact that you can't accommodate 140, 150 crores in that environment. But there are lots of things which could be choices that you could make, go back to that and live much better. So where is it that you find and think that we could creatively engage a United States-based initiative to combine with an Indian reality on the ground, which would be attractive in terms of pilots, then scaling up to make the difference?
Before going into that, I'll talk a little bit about the air pollution thing which you mentioned. Then we can see that something can be done, what is happening today on cooperation part. I was quite optimistic. So I agree with Purushad that there are challenges. Everything is not very positive. Everything is not achievable, and that's the important message which I personally feel. 10 years back, for the first time, we used the word health emergency in a petition, and that's in my name, Sudhir Mishra, Union of India, in Delhi High Court, as Navneet said. If you ask me today, how many petitions are there on air pollution in Delhi? So there were petitions before NGT, but NGT, what is happening, I am not aware about it. Whether actually regular hearings and orders are being passed on those air pollution matters. Supreme Court has at least 5 to 7 petitions, and Delhi High Court has 1 petition. Also, along with Delhi High Court petition of mine, there is court on its own motion. Personally speaking, Amit bhai, I never thought I will ever file a PIL in my own name. I never wanted to do that. As a law student, all of us had read MC Mehta was a Union of India. I thought I was never convinced. I got emotionally charged and filed it 10 years back when I lost my father. If you ask me today, and that's why I'm saying it for a wider audience, it's not a problem of Delhi. Navneet is absolutely right. It has actually gone. We are the chart busters of air pollution in the world. We are the Sone ki Chidiya, 5th largest economy. We are the most happening place, as we believe so. But we are the chart buster, top 20 most polluted city. Can never go to any other country except us most of the time of the year. And the reason is, we don't care. When we convinced Medical Council of India that you ask doctors to write on their prescription that air pollution is cause of this particular lung cancer, they were willing to write. AIMS, in fact, has opened a clinic for this purpose. No patient goes there. So citizen actually is not bothered. Now I'll tell you 2 other contradictions. So basically, when there was a particular political statement, all over Delhi you will see these placards. पंजाब से हवा आ जाती है, हम कुछ कर नहीं सकते. अब आज पंजाब में हवा जा सकती है. अब सब कुछ है कि but nobody is demanding. So our biggest problem today is it's not an election issue. It's not something which can take the neen and chine of the government of the day. Until that happens, because I am saying it with a lot of passion, this particular thing, because for 23, 24 years, it's not merely just working for the corporates or for government or for the NGOs or taking up issues. But when you see that you are in such a huge denial and nothing much is happening on this front, it really bothers you. I'll tell you one example. Last year, October, November 2022, Delhi's air was one of the best in 10 years. We convinced a private university to do the study how Delhi's air is so good. 200 law students and local community people went to a particular state bordering Delhi. I'm not taking the name of the state. We got a report which was like a ESG report where Terry worked, Arthur the Little worked, and that university worked. When we went back to that state, that look, you have done such a huge contribution in cleaning the Delhi air, the state refused to release the report. बोले अगर ये report release होगी तो पता चलेगा कि पराली से air pollution होता है. How will you deal with any kind of climate crisis if you live in this kind of denial? So that is point number 1. Point number 2, which is my message to when you asked about Amit bhai about the Indo-American cooperation. I started with the first part when I spoke that how much India and US used to cooperate. Even now they cooperate. Our biggest challenge is today technology transfer with regard to air pollution. Now, a lot of myth is there that if you use air purifier, at least you're safe. That's an addiction. There are doctors report, but nobody talks about those things. That then your lungs are even more incapacitated to survive in the outside world. But most of your air pollution articles comes, and we don't really address to these problems. So my point is, small companies in the United States are working on solutions which will talk about clean air in a localized atmosphere. We need those technologies, those accesses for Indian cities. We can afford those things also. So my own personal feeling is that in plastics, if we can do this, like if you have traveled in the last few months to US, you will see that even now in the departmental stores, you get plastic bags. They give it more in most of the European cities too. But in India, nobody even talks about it, how successfully in last 1.5 years, you will not get a plastic bag in most of the dairy wala, most of the sabji wala, most of the road, or like your digital explosion which you have managed to do. So there are examples which both the countries can take from each other. But so far the climate cooperation is concerned, our answer is unless we make it now a citizen issue, you will not be out of this crisis.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that we have pulled ourselves back to action time. And I think this is where the third round actually comes in to meaningfully engage. I was hoping that with the benefit of the three separate experiences and add my experience to it, we could share some experiences in terms of projects or change implementation, which actually has made a huge difference. One that the study you talked about already, but several others which gives us hope. There is definitely huge room for doing this, and unfortunately what happens with us is that after a discussion like this, we'll go back to our respective spaces and not make this a priority on a daily basis to watch. It takes us 2 to 5 minutes to look around our workspace as also our residences and ensure that the climate issues are being handled sensibly. So quickly, in a couple of minutes, each of you, if you could share, a couple of minutes. Any experiences, perspectives that you would like to offer?
What questions from the floor?
You will come, sir. If we started, sir, 15 minutes late, and we are 15 minutes ahead.
Please take your time.
So very quickly, I think, because I think each of us have a minute. So I think in terms of perspectives, one of the things, so I'm actually extremely opposed to having more authorities or, because we already have sufficient number of authorities, be it regulatory, be it ministry, departments and stuff. We are actually meant to address environment and climate change issues. So I personally feel that, a lot of these forum people would suggest that, we should have something for climate change. Like your ministry itself is a Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. You of course. So one of the things which I very quickly would want to suggest is, at a state level, in each of the state pollution control boards, have a department which actually kind of ensures that the best practices when it comes to, climate change and stuff like that is actually, so you maybe create a portal where, if, for example, you take any sector, if you take hospitality sector, take it the chemical industry, take it the manufacturing sector, climate finance, whichever sector, the idea is you create a forum where there is absolutely top-class knowledge share, and also you encourage industries, incentivize industries to actually come and share their best practices. So if you're a chemical industry, please tell what is the best thing to do, what are the best practices which chemical companies should actually be doing. If you're talking about, say, hospitality sector, be it in terms of like you use of glass bottles or how you kind of use the waste food, and there are a lot of issues. Just come and share your best practices. And I think the state pollution control boards actually can work as a nodal agency. They already have the resources, everything. It's just kind of making conscious efforts. And I think and for a country of this size and scale, we can very well do it. It's not that people don't want to. There's clearly the will, there is the intent, and I think the government also being to see the number of initiatives. Because when I was coming for this session, I just started researching in terms of what are the government initiatives, and I realized that government is actually doing a lot of things in a lot of these areas. But maybe that is not sufficient. So I think we need to think slightly differently. We need to ensure that all these best practices are shared. We need to come together, and also I think self-funding is the best way. The way I see it, of course, we don't know when we read about this $100 billion fund, and we're still talking about loss and damage and stuff like that. I don't know when that funding will happen from the developed to the developing nations and stuff. But I think we need to figure out as to how we kind of address these issues, even if that costs spending our own money from the private sector, public sector and stuff, to set our house in order. So I think I'll stop at that. Thank you.
Sir, I'll just take two examples. In US in 2005, the eye-opener, or I will say bodhisattva moment, was to go to Florida and visit a place called Okefenokee Wildlife Refuge. Now, if you go to US, go to that place. So there was a particular paint company which had polluted that area long back. So one of the idea was that it was given them the task that you go and restore that area. And that became a signature place. It became a place of residence for eminent scientists, and they had Nobel Prizes from that premises actually. Now in India at that time, this was like an absolute taboo. How can public and private can do? Environment is the job of the government. Corporates are always in a hands-on approach. But two major things have happened in last 10 years in India. And one major thing has happened in last 48 hours. So if Vantara, in the famous wedding which is being discussed in last, wherever the pre-wedding, where the entire world is, including the Facebook founder is there. So they are showcasing the Animal Rescue Center, And there were animal rescue centers prior to this also in this country. But with this kind of importance being given to every news channel is now talking about it, it's a very good thing for climate, very good thing for the environment. Many more should come up. So Oki Fanuki happened there in 2005. India's Oki Fanuki is now happening. We should have more such important thing. And the last point which I will say, anybody who has any influence on advertising, like Amul does these important ones on the, can you put something connected with air pollution to start with? Then how do we, or don't honk.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I believe the answer lies in biting teeth. The moment we have accountability, and accountability not only for the guy whose name is listed on one of the stock exchanges, but every stakeholder, if it is the ERP, credit rating agency, if you are an assurance provider, because now, this is a new commercial segment that has opened up, assurance segment providers. It just, so to share a recent survey, there was a recent survey conducted, and the question was pretty simple. Do you perceive that there is climate change and there is imminent threat to the way we, the way our planet looks like right now, and it feels like right now? And around 40% members of those present and voting, they answered even no. They did not feel it. Only later it was found out that the participants belong to a thermal power plant. So a lot depends on who the people are who've been, who are at the helm of either policy initiatives or steering our regulatory framework into a more green-centric ecosystem. Also, I believe that as of now, all ESG compliances, more often than not, they are in the nature of comply or respond. There will be investigation initiated, but the teeth, the actual biting teeth is lacking. So I believe pecuniary damage could be one. Thank you.
Thank you. So we would invite questions from the audience.
Yeah. Just from a layman's point of view, I would like to know if these aircraft emissions, do they also play some role in polluting, you see, the air?
Huge.
Because
Huge.
thousands and thousands of flights take place every day, every single moment. Therefore, any attempts are being made how to reduce that?
Yes, sir. So I think there is a lot of focus on the kind of fuel which the aviation sector is actually using, and I think there's also research. In fact, there have been trial flights also in terms of the kind of fuel which would be better for the environment. But on that note, it's very important. I just want to make a comment. I think one of the things I find very, very baffling is a lot of these so-called climate change experts. When they travel in private jets to actually talk about climate change, I think that's the biggest. And good you flag that, because I think all of us, we can actually be great preachers. But I think till the time we are ourselves kind of, irrespective of how well funded you are, an international organization or national organization or whatever, you have to be mindful of everything that you do. You cannot be going around talking about climate change. I also don't believe in the other extreme, where you have a Greta, whatever, traveling by boat or whatever. I think you have to kind of be safe and travel normally. But if you have a chartered plane to go and talk about climate change, I think that's where the challenge is. Long answer short, I think, sir, there is a lot of research going on right now in terms of the most sustainable
In a
fuel options.
nutshell, aircraft has the highest carbon footprint per capita using. No question about it. No question.
Unless you're going to attend a national climate seminar.
This mic, right?
I am Arvinder Singh Brara, Chairman and Managing Director of Mindtech Consultants. I'd like to take on from where Mr. Sudhir Mishra emphasized that there is an apathy amongst the common person to do their part in helping to protect the environment and reduce impact of climate change. So, simple practical examples. We can all use solar energy on our rooftop. Now, I've done it in my house and also in my office building in Sector 6, Noida. and the payback period is less than 2 years. You are helping the environment. It is, it is good for the country. It's good for reducing the need for getting power from thermal power plants. So what I would like to suggest is this needs to be promoted, and perhaps Indo-US Chamber can look at encouraging its members at least to, and recognizing them who do it. I think we have to start playing a small role to encourage. So,
Noted.
That-
In
that
fact, the
was-
Prime Minister has taken an initiative, if you had heard, where he's sanctioned a significant amount of money for putting crores of solar rooftops and the people who can't afford below poverty line, and then encouraging their subsidy which is given to each state. So that's being done, sir. And I think it's very encouraging.
I do understand. They have huge solar farms in Gujarat and all. But that's the initiative of the government. I'm talking of the initiative of people like you and me.
Right, not
putting,
utilities.
and not depending upon the government. That is one.
Higher utility versus
The Can I move on to the next point? So I should stop? No, I'm going to make the second. Second point is that there is, again coming back from the point made that we need to get the initiative people. Now, I have started a website called greenpledges.com.
Sir, can we take it offline?
No, why?
My concern is that, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I understand we got a slip just before the third round started. That's why I told everybody 1 minute. We had not run out of time before.
Okay, all right.
We respect your time, we'll take it up. But anybody else, last question and then we'll proceed.
Can I?
So there are 3 hands up, but you will please, no comment, just a straight question. The gentleman in front.
Yeah, can I get this?
The mic is on that table. And we will certainly catch up. I'm just saying, I'll catch up.
My question was about, because it is a commercial, we are talking about it. Like the European, they have got this carbon adjustment mechanism. If it is for the US, because we have got, let us say, steel exports going on there. So is there any mechanism between India and America to manage this, actually the carbon export from India to, let us say, that one in the form of exports of these goods and services?
In fact, sir, the thing will be when the carbon market comes in alliance with the US, you will find a significant impact in terms of money coming in. As the industries who have to comply will be taking carbon credits from India.
Also, carbon tax market will
So,
evolve.
gentlemen at the end, and I think we'll draw to close after that.
Hello, I'm K.K. Roy Chaudhary. Hello, from back.